Hello, everyone. Welcome to FloTrack's College Cross Country Ranking Show presented by HOKA. We are so back. My name is Nia Gibson, and joined with me today is Bryan Deibel. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Nia. So excited to be here. That little jingle means cross country's back, and it's so exciting. I was out there last weekend, but we'll dig into that a little more in a bit. It was incredible.
Amazing. And something I'm really excited about, too, who will be joining us actually this entire season, HOKA guest analyst, Krissy Gear. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great today. I'm super excited to be here.
You know, I think your insight's going to be super valuable as a world-class athlete. So again, thank you so much for being here. Shout out to HOKA. They definitely decked out the set too. If you guys see, we got sneakers, we got swag. It's going to be a good season. So let's start talking about just basically what this show is. You know, I think we had a little bit of it last year, but you know, we're going to evolve it a little bit more, too. We're going to be talking rankings. Obviously, we're going to be talking about what happened in the prior season. We're going to be talking about what happened this past weekend. We're going to introduce a lot of fun stuff. We're going to have a good time because cross-country is fun, cross-country is cool, cross-country is rocky, and cross-country is fast.
Oh, yeah.
It's super, super fast. Before we get into what happened this past weekend, let's recap last season. So last year, obviously, we had it was a nice little dramatic nationals, I would say. Obviously, Grand Blanks did win on the men's side, but then followed up was Hoptum Samuel. He came second in dramatic fashion, lost a shoe, and it even delayed his indoor season a bit because he had to get some stitches. But I would say grittiest person of the meet by far. BYU swept men and women, and obviously, Doris Lemon-Gole of Alabama did take the W there. But bringing it back to Hoptum Samuel, we had a nice little conversation with him. Or I should say more so, Johnny Pace had a nice conversation with him. They went on a nice run, recapped the season about a bit, and talked about what's to come this season.
November, that's all that matters, you know. Just been running the whole season good, and maybe Nationals is a different day. Yeah. No one knows.
Keep a shoe on this time.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah.
I think you do that.
The team looks good actually, and yeah. As you see, everyone was flying this morning.
You're flying.
It was good workout. I just grew up in a small village, from farmers family, so I just chose my own passion. You know,
right.
I just start running. The running gave me a lot of opportunities. Yeah, travel to the world, and then just making good name and just proud of my family. Now last year was good, but it didn't go as I planned. You know, for runner-up last year,
right.
And yeah, my goals this year was just keep winning NCAA nationals, you know, and getting some new PB as well, you know.
I loved every second of that. And you guys can watch the whole thing on FloTrack, but there was something he said in terms of, he expressed a tad bit of disappointment from last year, but with that came new goals for this upcoming season. So obviously still very much so determined, new personal best across the horizon. So, I mean, what was you guys' biggest takes from that?
Yeah, I think my biggest takeaway was just it sounded a little bit like trust the process. Yeah. I'm going to continue to trust the process, see how things go. Train the way I know how to train, and just look for those PBs. And if I do what I know I can do, things will come. And I think that's important. I think that's what everybody tries to kind of strive for, is you make those goals at the beginning of the season, you put them out there, and then you just really work for them. And it doesn't matter what else happens around you, but you just keep going for them. And I think that's kind of what Hoptum, said there a little bit.
Krissy, I'd love to hear your take on the video.
No, I totally agree with you, Nia. I think my first takeaway was the same as yours. Hearing that Hoptum was disappointed with his season last year, which, by all accounts, I think anyone would agree was an excellent season. He included feeling disappointed by a runner-up finish, which, never a bad result, especially in today's day and age in NCAA, where it's just so competitive and everyone's just at the top of their game. You got world-class athletes competing against world-class athletes, so it gets me really excited for this upcoming season to see what he's going to bring to the table, as well as the rest of the fields.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, honestly speaking. what he can bring to the field. I'm excited to see what he does this season. But when we talk about this season, let's talk about this past weekend. Everybody had 2 shoes on. So we can start off with the Grand Creek Invitational, and let's get a little bit of a clip of what head coach of Mizzou, Kyle Levermore had to say about the course.
We'll figure a lot of that out when we recap and sit down early next week. But I give a ton of credit and honestly all the credit to the Columbia Parks and Recs department and what they've done with set up and getting this course ready, and then Mizzou, event staff doing a great job. And so I think the setup isn't necessarily that different to anything we've done to previous Gans Creek Classics or the Missouri State meet, but just to know that the parking flow worked well and some of those other like little details of just having the volume of people here, I thought there wasn't much difficulty on that end, and I think a lot of people have given us nice compliments on the course, so that's always nice to hear. But we'll tweak some little stuff and make some good adjustments. But I thought overall the city did a great job, Mizzou did a great job, and we'll find a couple things that we want to work on. But I don't know, I thought it went really well, and it's just really cool to see this place with this caliber of teams here, and our goal long term is to continue to have this meet be this caliber. So I hope we got a little bit more attention on the national stage in terms of the quality of the course, and that this is a place that you can come early season and run really fast, but also get a good hard effort in, and we want to keep having this weekend be maybe the unofficial start of the racing season and start that here in Columbia. So I just had a great morning, and separate from coaching, just to see this place up and running. It definitely feels different than when we're out here for practice.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Oh, I loved everything about that. That was actually really cute. Like the ending part of it, I think you see this element of just satisfaction. It feels like something that really popped out to me is just the level of attention that it's going to get now on a national stage, and people are going to see what this course has to come and like the caliber of people that was there. Bryan, I know you were there. You ran the course yourself before the meet actually started, so I'd love to hear about that, and I'd love to hear about your thoughts just watching it in person and post.
Yeah, I mean, so I ran the course on Thursday because the meet was on Friday. And the first couple loops, I was like jiving, and I didn't do it quite the way you're supposed to run it. And I ran, I think it was 5 miles, but yeah, just by the time I hit the 3rd loop, which is like the 30K loop, the longer loop, I was tired, man. It was a pretty hilly, like it's not like they're like in your face hills, but they're hilly, and then there's also just a lot of tight winding curves and turns. But yeah, Kyle and Coach Halter gave me like the whole rundown of just the course's inception, how it came to be, where it's all from, like just how they started it, how this idea came to be, how the course kind of was built, I guess, about 5 or so years ago. And just each year they've tried to improve and make it better and better and better and bring now this national caliber cross-country meet to Columbia, Missouri. And this is just obviously just the tip of the iceberg, just the first meet. Actually, it's technically their 2nd meet. They had a smaller meet early in the year, but this is like the first where they've had national caliber talent come in to kind of prepare for later in the season. So.
And I'm going to definitely take a piece of that, but I'm going to ask Krissy a question first. Krissy, you ran this course before, and one thing that Kyle said was it's super important that it's starting to get this national attention. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the course itself? Give it to me.
It honestly may be one of my favorite courses that I've run. I think it's an honest, fast course. Like sometimes there are some fast courses that like everyone unofficially knows, like, oh, it's short. No, it's definitely the full distance. It definitely has some real cross country variables in there, but if you run it right, it has potential to be a really fast course. The last time I ran it was SEC's in 2021, and you had some good mud, like people going through mud puddles. Everyone got some good photos of like mud, splashed back on them. But yeah, there's enough uphills to challenge you a little bit, and then enough downhills for you to catch your breath. And I love the last K. If you can make it through that hard last uphill from 4 to 5K, and you got your feet under you from 5 to 6K, like it's mostly downhill from that point, and it's just time to let it rip. So I think it's, from an athlete perspective, one of my favorite courses. Definitely challenging enough to keep it engaging, but not enough to totally break you and throw, crazy variables in there that most people may or may not be able to overcome. So I think it keeps it really honest. And then from a spectator perspective, it's definitely really easy and fun to spectate. You're not having to be stuck in one part of the course and not able to make it over to the other part. So I think it's a really great course for athletes and spectators alike.
Krissy, it's so funny because like everything that you just said was literally like what coaches told me after the meet on Friday.
Yeah.
Literally, that's the exact same, like verbatim. So like, if you ever want to coach, like I feel like you could be in there for coaching, especially this course. Like it was so funny because like exactly what you said verbatim is like, the way that you attack it and how you approach it, and then like if you could make it past that certain point. And a lot of coaches were like analyzing the splits, and a lot of athletes they felt like went out too hard almost, which was super interesting on this course. And then just the back half kind of hit them a little harder than they thought. But like once you can make it past a certain point, it's like just getting home, like making sure you're there and you give it all your effort just to finish at the finish line and make it to the end. But that was so funny that you literally just, that's the same exact thing I heard from almost all the coaches this past weekend, was essentially what you just elaborated. So
I want to talk more about your weekend, Bryan. When you came back, this was definitely when we weren't recording, you said that this meet usually serves as like a little bit of a precursor of what we can see at Nationals, especially with Mizzou being the ones to host Nationals. What did you see this weekend? Yeah,
well, this meet obviously this year is super important because of all the ranked teams that came to Gaines Creek and to Columbia, because we had, in years past, there's been other meets, like when it's at Tom Sawyer is important. When it's in Madison, Madison's important. But this one, like obviously there's pre-nationals later on this year, but this one kind of has a lot of teams all showing up to race. I mean, there was like tons and tons of ranked teams, both men's and women's coming in. And if they're not at this meet, they're going to be at the pre-nationals later on this year. So getting just kind of, for all those teams, like I mentioned, to get that first look, a lot of coaches, the course has been around a while. Like, we said, Krissy, you've run it before. But a lot of coaches, like, they don't take their teams here. Like, it's Columbia, Missouri. They're not going there unless they're SEC squads. Maybe they had their region meet there, things like that. They've hosted a few bigger meets, but like this is the first time the NCAA cross country championships will be hosted on this course later this year. So anybody who thinks they could make it to nationals or could be a contender wants to see this course. And I think that was the big takeaway, from a lot of these teams this weekend, was just getting that first glimpse of what it's like. And I'm sure, Krissy, I'm sure you guys did this all the time. At Arkansas, you got a look at where you wanted to be later on down the year.
I mean, pretty well said. Any teams stand out to you the most that you think a little too early prediction that we may need to watch out for?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like the Florida women looked incredible, and I think, nothing against Tilda Olamomoy, but I think she has more than what she gave, and I don't know if she was held back a little bit or what, but like, I think Hilda obviously is an incredible athlete, and I think she has more to give. So I think, the fact that she has more to give and she was able to move up and could be even higher, like that on the women's side is huge for me. NAU, and I think one of the big takeaways is Colorado. Both men and women looked fantastic. I think Coach Carlson's finally, he's got a whole year under his belt. He's kind of getting that program where he wants. Things are clicking. I think he's starting to put the pieces in place and to move forward. And obviously we've seen him had success, prior to, I think he was at Notre Dame and then at Tennessee. So, now him being at Colorado, he's kind of he's using what he knows best and putting it in place, and I think it's really awesome. There. That's kind of from my perspective, just those teams on the women's side. I don't know if we want to talk men's yet or not.
But we can always talk men's.
Yeah, I think in the men's race for me, like Virginia was kind of a big surprise. I know, as I'm sure we're going to talk about later, they had a lot of transfers which really helped them, but like a team full of seniors, and nothing against Gary Martin. I think he definitely could have had a bigger race, but he's nothing against him. He's a phenomenal competitor, phenomenal racer. It was hot out there, so I think that also kind of played effect. So, and I think that's one thing that we're going to have to look at later on in the year is like in Missouri, it can be 70s for nationals or it could be 30s for nationals. It just depends on what the weather gives us. But yeah, I think, obviously a big one to watch. Virginia did fantastic. Iowa State came out and did what I think we all kind of thought and assumed they were going to do and just dominated with that score of 47 points. So really incredible to see them on the men's side. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Bryan.
Yeah.
Well, before we go on to what I wanted to say next, I wanted to ask you guys both, what role do you think conditions are going to play for these athletes moving on, like throughout the season, nationals, and maybe what role do you think it played today? Because I think for some people, heat can be a bit of a factor, whether it's positive or negative.
Yeah. Krissy, do you want to take this one first?
Yeah. I definitely do think it will play a factor to a certain extent, you know, but not as big as we've seen in the past. And I attribute that a lot to just these athletes' mentality and their resilience. I think as the competition has gotten better, you know, and the depth has increased across the board, that you know people either know like, okay, it's like keep up or shut up, and these athletes are definitely keeping up. You know, I feel like if you want to be a champion, if you want to be one of the best in the field, you just have to do what it takes. And the biggest part of that is, you know, handling your mental side. And I think the reason we're seeing like such depth, or one of the reasons, you know, is these athletes are learning how to control everything that they can control, and not being so flustered by little things like the climate or you know like the conditions. So that's yeah, that's my take. I feel like that's you know going back to like I said, I feel like it'll be an honest race where no one's going to be counted out because it's like something that they're not used to. You know what I mean?
Oh, T, period. But I guess that's a perfect way to segue into what we are introducing next into our cross country drinking show. It is the Mud and Miles Spotlight. This is given to the athlete or the team that has had the most improvement or have shown the most grit or has had a really good performance. And for this week, it's Angelina Perez of Wake Forest, that junior. It's early in the season, right? It's early in the season, and she's already making strides from what we've seen from last season. She was actually nominated by our very own John Davern that we will be introducing soon. And yeah, she's a dog. She's a dog. And clearly something's clicking. Something changed during this off season where she was like, I'm better than this. And I think she probably proved it to herself. Sometimes there's athletes who have the abilities to do certain things. And sometimes it's like, okay, I know I can do it. But when you prove you can do it, I think she's somebody, maybe like my hot take, watch out for her on the national stage, because when you prove to yourself and have that confidence and really digested what you're able and capable of doing, then watch her do it. Or what do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
Sorry, go ahead, Krissy.
I couldn't say it better. You know, I think she's proven to us. You know, if you look back at her high school results, like she's talented, and I believe that talent never goes away. And sometimes, you know, there can be different factors that stand in the way of that talent being realized. You know, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, situational things. But I think if you can clear those up, like the talent's always going to shine through. And I especially the athletes who have, you know, like stagnated or just haven't progressed in years, but they keep at it and they know like, wait, I have more to give. I'm going to figure out how to get back to that. And then they do get back to it. Like I'm a little more biased to like give those athletes a little more weight, you know? And I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like it takes such mental resilience and grit to get to that point, you know, and to not throw your towel in when things aren't going well, or when you're not seeing, you know, when you're putting all the right effort in and doing all the right things and you're not seeing the results immediately. So, I mean, I couldn't have thought of a better pick. You know, I love seeing the athletes get back to what they know they're capable of.
Krissy, when was kind of your aha moment that is like, wait a minute, not only am I decent at this, but I'm good at this and I can actually like win this? When was like your moment?
Like more in college or?
Anytime, like when you knew that I can do this on a world-class level. Maybe it was in college, maybe it was afterward.
Oh, that's a really good question. I'm not, it's funny because like I go back and forth. I spoke to this gentleman who I've run into twice in Eugene after I paced free this year. And I ran into him in 2023 nationals and at 2024 nationals. And um, he had told me that he met me at the Eugene or the South Eugene track ahead of 2023. And apparently like I told him, like, I really think I can make the team. And like, I had like confidence, and he was just like, I don't know you, but okay, you know? And I was like, he said that to me, I was like, I said that? You know? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I just feel like I've struggled with like self-esteem issues and like doubting that the last 2 years, you know? And so I was like, what made me think about that? And then when I thought about it, I was like, I think like in 2023, going into USA's, like, I was just having fun, you know? And I was surrounded by people who are better than me. And I feel like when you're surrounded by people who are better than you, and you're able to somewhat keep up with them, you know, I couldn't do everything that my teammates are doing, but I think when you see yourself among those people who you see as the best of the best, like that really changes things, you know. Yeah, I feel like the more people are around people who are better than them, or maybe they're not better, but they're uplifting, making them feel like a part of something bigger themselves, and makes it a lot easier to see yourself in those ranks.
That's a word, Krissy. Definitely gonna keep that in mind. I might tweet it. But let's move along. I want to introduce our very own John Davern, freshly married, fresh off of Greece, but he's also our D1 ranking guru. John, hi.
What's going on? Happy to be here. It's cross country season. That track, I don't know about you guys, but that track season is way too long. Starts in December, ends in, Athlos is still coming up, so we still have that to look forward to, I guess. But I'm just excited we can finally talk and cross country and kind of just enjoy the fall weather as it kind of descends into the United States. But yeah, you just talked about Angelina Perez. I want to actually bring it back a quick second and talk a little bit more about her.
Yeah,
she was someone who was a high school standout, right? Like, she was a New Jersey meetup champion multiple times, and then after high school was very vocal on social media about having an eating disorder. So to see her come back, and I feel like this was her definitely the best race of her collegiate career, in my opinion. Almost split a 5K PR in her 6K, which, you see that in the cross country course more often than not, but at the same time, it's still impressive, especially when you have a PR as fast as she does. So again, just wanted to throw in those other couple notes while I heard you guys talking about it. I was getting excited. But again, just excited to be here, excited for cross country, excited to be married. Let's go Greece. And yeah, that's all I got.
Yes. Shout out to Morgan, too, our other freshly married honorary FloTrackee.
Yes.
But John, let's talk about the Cowboy Jamboree. I'm really happy that we got you on here. Obviously we're going to talk rankings as your primary reason why you're here, but Cowboy Jamboree, guys, let's talk. I think something. Go ahead, John.
Oh, sorry.
No, go.
I had the distinct honor of watching the Cowboy Jamboree from my couch, and I think with these early season meets, kind of the main takeaway has to be, well, it's hard because you don't want to get too excited for people who are having good races because it's still early. And you also can't start counting people out because, again, it's way too early, especially in a year like this year where Worlds is so late. And so we don't see a lot of the top stars coming out and racing quite yet. That changes some things. But I think one of the key takeaways you have to take from Jamboree is just the freshmen. And a few of them ran during the outdoor track season, and this is their first cross-country season. If you look on the women's side, Iska Chelangat, she won on the women's side. Marion Jepnagedic was third on the women's side, another freshman. And they both ran during the track season. On the men's side, a guy we were really kind of surprised by was Evans Biwat, and he kind of skyrocketed into our rankings, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. But I think the main takeaway from really Jamboree with, a less stacked field this year, a lot of people like it gains, obviously, was just the freshmen. Having them kind of show up, put themselves on the radar is really important this early in the season. And now it's just about longevity.
John, I want to ask you real quick about the depth of New Mexico. Obviously, Hopton Samuel didn't run, but they still finished pretty high up in the men's team standings. Any thoughts on that, about their depth, or is this just kind of like a way too early prediction, or Nia's getting excited?
No, they certainly have depth. I think, obviously, when Kip Karui went pro this summer with Nike, that was kind of one of those things where we were questioning how strong they would actually be. But they came out and finished second behind Oklahoma State. They were just 5 points back, and they didn't have Hopton Samuel. You put him in the lineup, and they probably beat Oklahoma State by 10s here. So on the men's side especially, New Mexico looks surprisingly deep for kind of what we were expecting with them losing a big star. And, again, a lot of that is just the fact that they're really good at getting some of these international guys to come and run for them. So New Mexico is going to be arguably the best team in the nation this year. Obviously, it's a long season ahead, but right now, they're close to that top spot.
Nice, I love to hear it. And then my last question, I want to ask all of you guys, Bryan, Krissy, John. I love a too early prediction. I love deep diving in, even when it's premature. But at what point do you see someone's talent stand out and it's like, okay, this is not a fluke. They're the real deal. Watch out for them at nationals. Want to start, Krissy?
Yeah. I couldn't have said anything that John said earlier better myself. He made a really good point about it's hard to make calls early on in the season, just because, the way that things are now, like you have people who are literally coming off World, and they're not racing yet. People who are like, they might be firing on all cylinders right now, they might be early in training. Like, people are just coming from all over. So I feel like, it's hard to start making predictions until conference and on. But I think if you can see people, it's one thing to run really well at like a time trial meet, at a low key meet where things are controlled, less variables. But when we start seeing results at pre-nationals and on, when the stakes are higher, when these teams are like really trying to see how they look against other teams, I feel like that's when I start to place a little more weight, Now granted, it's still not, totally determined, but I think if I see teams or athletes show up to very in-depth meets and perform well, for me, usually that I assume that's going to bode really well for them come championship season.
Nicely said. Bryan?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like you said it perfect. And I think, there's a couple things that I want to draw on from what I heard this weekend from coaches. One of them was Iowa State's coach, and he was just telling me, I asked him kind of like, what's the pressures of being ranked number one? Like, obviously, like, you're ranked in the top, you're ranked very high. When you're ranked like that, how do you kind of tell the team? Obviously there's like the pressures of it because you want to run and perform well, but also there's some people who are like, it's just rankings, they don't matter, whatever. And he said, well, we're kind of going to lean into it. Like, we're going to say, hey, we are number one, and we're number one for a reason, and we're going to come out and show people every single meet, what we have to offer and what we're going to do. So that was kind of an interesting take. And then, obviously I talked with Coach Carlson also from Colorado afterwards, and he said, kind of echoed a little bit different of a sentiment, saying, this is really early. We are really happy that we did so well, but we want to make sure that we continue this progress and keep moving forward, because that's ultimately the end of the goal, is making sure that we're there when we need to be at the end of the year, at the national meet, at the regional meet, et cetera, moving forward, make sure that, things are going to pan out the way we want in our favor, and we're going to be in nationals potentially on the podium kind of thing.
All right. John?
Call me a hater, but like, I don't believe anything until regionals. Like, nothing matters until regionals. It really doesn't, especially at the Division I level, where people will just arrest people at conference, right? Like in the D2, D3 level, people take conferences a lot more seriously. Like, those are basically our championship meets. At the Division I level, people will just arrest people all year, and suddenly you'll have some random runner, on the men's or women's side that you haven't heard of all year, and they're top 5 at regionals, and you're like, okay, well, now we have to watch out for this person, right? So for me, I don't believe anything until regionals. I think that's kind of the first time that people are going all out, and even then, some people can rest, depending on the region, right? Like, some people have easier paths. BYU has an easier path through their region, so they can kind of run a little bit more strategic compared to a team like Wake Forest that does not have an easy path through their region, right? That's a tough region that they have to run through. So yeah, it almost doesn't matter till the national championship. I hate to say that when we have a ranking show all year, but I think you have to take everything, very skeptically. Like, we have winners this week. Rosemary Longisa on the women's side won at Gaines. You have to take that with a little bit of speculation and kind of skepticism as we kind of cruise through the rest of the season.
All right, that's a nice segue into the D1 rank. Oh, did you want to say something, Krissy?
I was going to say, yeah, but if I may say one more thing.
Yeah.
I don't think you're a hater. I think you're totally spot on. I think back to 2017 cross-country season, and, I was running at Furman. Our men's team was phenomenal all year. They were ranked pretty high in, like, y'all's rankings, USTFCC's rankings, just dominated regionals, and then come nationals, like, they struggled a bit, like they didn't run to their potential. And I'm sure there's so many things you could point out and be like, oh, it was this or this. And then the women's side, like, I don't think we ranked very highly. We were able to make it, we were in the same region as NC State. So it's like NC State's winning every year, We were like, we need to be that second spot. And we were, it's the first time Furman had made NCAA's in school history. And, the team took that mentality and that, blue collar work ethic, right? Yeah, blue collar work ethic, handled what they could handle and showed up as the 7th place finish that year. So it was like between like the men's and the women's team, it switched. So No, I totally agree. But I just feel like, the rankings they're fun. I think anyone who knows sport knows like rankings don't matter. Like you said, it's exactly how you show up at the meet when it counts. I feel like I've always been very like underrated for obvious reasons. Like I didn't show up super excitingly in the main season, but I felt like I knew how to show up when it counted in championship season. But yeah, I always feel like rankings are fun anyway. Like why not try and as someone who studied like who did a little bit of research undergrad, it's always fun to like look at the data and try and like make sense of it as best you can.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, rankings are fun, so let's have some fun. Let's look at our set of rankings. They're not new. We did have like some preseason rankings earlier, but these are a fresh set of rankings post everything of the men's team. All right. Look at this. To your point, guys, Colorado did go up 6 points. Virginia went up 4 spots, not points, sorry. And Iowa State stayed the same. What are we seeing, guys? What are our thoughts? Anything interesting? Let's talk.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest mover on the men's side into that top 10 was obviously Colorado, and Bryan kind of hit on it a little bit earlier. I think he was more specifically talking about the women's side, but on the men's side, Colorado, really impressive third place finish at Gaines Creek. But the star of the show was Dominic Serem. He finished 5th. He was previously at Toledo and Oklahoma, transferred into Colorado this year. He finished 172nd at Nationals last year. So really someone who wasn't on our radar at all going into the season. That's why he was well out of our top 50. But obviously showed up, had a strong summer. Coach Carlson got him in shape. So we'll see, where, again, long season. We'll see where he's at later in the year. But we also have to look at Isaiah Givens, who finished 15th for Colorado. He was 127th at Nationals last year. He primarily focused on the mile and 1500 this track season, which was why it was a little surprising to see him run so well over that, 8K distance this early in the year. Usually it takes those milers a little bit longer to build up. Obviously, he had a really good training block. So Colorado might have a couple of low sticks that we weren't necessarily expecting heading into the season, right? I think Colorado last year, even this year, we were kind of expecting them just to have a pack in, the middle of the NCAA pack, somewhere, I don't know, in the 50s, 60s, just have a, strong pack there. Well, now they might have a few All-Americans, and that can really shake up the standings when we get to Nationals.
Okay. And there was another big move with Virginia. Can you talk about that and why that factored in to, I guess, the big dramatic move?
Yeah. I mean, Virginia, they jumped from 8th to 4th after their runner-up finish at Gaines Creek. Again, just surprising low sticks, right? Obviously, Gary Martin finished 9th. We were expecting that. We weren't expecting Justin Wachtel to finish 12th. He won the Virginia Invitational earlier this year. Again, just an early season meet, but still a win's a win. Finished 140th at NCAA's last year, and he actually is going to jump up to number 30 in the rankings. We'll talk about that later, but jumps up to number 30 on the individual side. So again, just having more guys move into All-American is going to really move them forward. The interesting thing is their top 4 were actually all men who have been at Virginia. Their first transfer in was their number 5 runner, Brett Gardner. He transferred from NC State, and we're kind of expecting that, they had quite a few transfers from Princeton this year. We're expecting the Princeton transfers to kind of continue to step up. Princeton is historically known as a late blooming team, so I would not be surprised to see those men kind of come on later October, early November, and suddenly, be contenders for those top 5 on that team. But yeah, I'm excited to see what Virginia can do. As of right now, they're at 4. We spoke about Virginia, we spoke about Colorado. I think Colorado actually has more depth than Virginia, which is interesting. But again, if we see those Princeton men come on, they'll certainly be in our top 5 for a little bit.
I'm excited to dive into the men's individual right after we talk about the women's team ranking, just to see like how that specifically shook some stuff up. But yes, let's go to the ladies' side and see how the women's team standings are shaking out right now. BYU at the top. I don't know how surprised I am about that. It doesn't seem There's much movement here. It feels like this kind of seems as expected. John, can you talk a little bit more to how we got to this result for the women's team rankings this week?
Yeah, it's really interesting because a lot of the top teams and individuals showed up and raced at Gaines Creek on the men's side. On the women's side, we didn't see that necessarily. The teams were a little bit more spread out. Individuals haven't really opened their season yet, and so there were a little bit few less conclusions that we could draw. The biggest one, I think, and Bryan hit on it already, was Florida. Women look incredibly strong. They had 4 in the top 10 at Gaines Creek. The real challenge for them is going to be to get their 5th stick to move up a little bit. There was about a 60-second drop off from their 4th to 5th runner. That is not what you want to see, especially when we get later in the season. I mean, that could be literally 100 spots at nationals. So they need more depth, but right now they have a really strong 4, and that's going to put them in a really strong position when we get later in the season. Another team that's not in that top 10, but again, had a really strong week was Colorado, as Bryan hit on. They went from unranked to 15th in our rankings. Make sure you go check out the full rankings on FloTrack. But they had 4 freshmen in their starting 8. No true standouts, but they had a really strong spread, 50-second spread from 1 through 5, and just looked like a really uniform squad. So that's what you like to see early in the season, especially with the freshmen showing up for them.
I think it's time to get into the nooks and crannies and the whys of how these team rankings came up to be. So I think this is the perfect time to throw it back to the men, but this time look at the D1 individual men. Let's take a look at that. All right. So we have Hopton Samuel, who is number 1. He did not race this week. Obviously, give it another big name, Gary Martin, there at 9. John, tell me, why did this happen? What did it shift? And gives it a little bit more context to what you were saying regarding the men's teams rankings.
Yeah, top 4 are all actually going to stay the same from our preseason ranks. Hopton Samuel stays at the top spot. Haps hasn't opened his season yet, but again, he is the heavy favorite, especially when we're on the cross-country course. Brian Musau at 2nd. We saw how well he performed during the outdoor season as well as the indoor season. I believe he swept the 5K titles, indoor and outdoor, but fact check me on that.
He did.
And then Dennis Timnagetich, obviously at 3, he was first at the Cowboy Jamboree. Not much to see there, just went out and won the race. Valentin Soka, he kind of moved into our top 4 later in the summer. He had a really strong outdoor season, ran 13:01 over 5K, and obviously qualified for the world final. So those 4 men retain the top 4 spots. The big one here is Solomon Kipchoge, and some might be surprised not to see him higher in our rankings, right? Especially after the week that he had this week, winning at Gaines Creek. Obviously, he has that crazy half marathon PR. Bryan, do you know what it is? It's like 59 something.
That's a good question. I have to look it up, John. Sorry.
Well, yeah, it's fast. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot
you're
there,
good.
but it's a really fast half marathon PR. But he didn't perform well at the end of last season. He was a DNF at nationals, and so that kind of, bumped him down our rankings a little bit. But regardless, he's going to be at 7 for now. Joash Rudo had a good week. Bernard Chariot, Tulane, he moved up from 45th to 7th. That looks like a big jump when you look at it just from the numbers perspective. But when you keep in mind that we haven't released any rankings throughout the month of September, he would have been a more slow mover. He probably would have been mid-20s, low 30s last week. And then after a 2nd place finish at Gaines Creek, 3rd place finish at Gaines Creek, jumps into our top 10. Ernest Chariot and Gary Martin fall just a tad. Ernest Chariot did not run. He did not run at Gaines Creek, but it's just going to fall based on how other people have performed. Gary Martin moves down from 5 to 9, 9th at Gaines Creek. We need to see more there. Again, really early season. We're expecting him to come on late, but you have to rank based on what we see, and right now he was beat by a few men. And that kind of concludes our top 10 rankings, unless we want to highlight any other runners outside the top 10.
Quick question as we stay into the top 10 real quick. Do you think Brian Musau will be can he be on upset alert for Hopton, just coming off of the momentum he's had from this past outdoor season?
Yeah, and I don't even necessarily think it would be an upset if he beat Haptum. I think they're 1A, 1B right now. I think we had to put someone on top, and we put Haptum just based on, he has 2 runner-ups in the last 2 NCAA championships. But Brian Musau has proven that if you leave him in a race, he's going to beat you. So if they leave him in the race at NCAA championships, he's not even an upset favorite. He's a favorite if he's still in the race with 1K to go, in my opinion. It's a long race, 10K. It's longer, a little bit outside of his normal range, more known as a 5K runner. But yeah, for right now, I think they're 1A, 1B.
All right. So I think that's a perfect way. Let's get into the ladies. Let's see the women's individual rankings this week. Presented by HOKA. Okay. Walk me through this, John. What's going on? A lot of stuff here is not surprising, I'm going to be honest with you. But go ahead.
Yeah, not much movement on the women's side at all. Actually, our top 9 all remain the same from our preseason set. And that's because all but one runner have not opened their season. The only runner in our top 10 that has, top 9 that has opened her season was Hilda. 9th at Gaines Creek. We didn't feel like it's justified to bump her down based on that performance. We don't know the specifics there, right? Was she held back? Was she just working out? We don't know. And so that kind of makes it hard to bump her down. And with an early season meet, our top 10 is so close still. Hilda's in that upper echelon. She could probably be 3 in these rankings based on how she performed in the past. So didn't feel justified to bump her down. We kept her at 5 for now. The only runner who jumped into the top 10 was Hannah Gapes, NC State. The real reason she jumped in was because Julia Cherubet of Oregon, who previously held that 10th spot, fell out. She finished 5th at Gaines Creek. And Hannah Gapes, she won the Adidas XC Challenge. Not much to take away from that Adidas XC Challenge. It looked like NC State was kind of just running, front running, pack running. For example, they held out Grace Hartman. They held out a few other women. So not a ton to take away, but Hannah Gapes was on that fringe top 10 and just jumps in by mere, the factor of Juliet Cherubet falling out.
Krissy, while we're in your neck of the woods, is there anything that you're seeing here that's jumping out to you, hot takes, anything that's interesting, noteworthy, anything in that world?
Where do you guys have Angelina Napoleon ranked? I'm a little biased.
Right?
She's a people chaser, but for someone who, like you talk about, someone who came on really late and just progressed brilliantly last year and not only had the opportunity to compete at Worlds, but did it like you would think a veteran would do, right? Like, he was just such a baller, fearless. And when I see someone perform like that, especially someone who has ranked in the collegiate racing system, I'm like, okay, this is someone who knows how to handle competition and can show up when it matters. And there's someone else in your top 10 rankings who I'm not going to name because I don't want anyone to think that, I'm frowning on the rankings. I'm not at all. I think that the runner is absolutely brilliant and is going to be, someone to watch over the years. But I think that's a hot take to rank someone who hasn't raced in the collegiate ranking system yet over someone who has not only raced in the collegiate ranking system, but has raced in the world ranking system and just, has just been on fire. I know, I know Angelina hasn't raced yet, but I think it's safe to say that, when she does, she's going to be a force to be reckoned with. And there's also extra weight to be added there, being part of a team like NC State. I think there are teams like NC State, like UIU, another team that I'm thinking of during my time, New Mexico. I would look at these teams of women, and you could tell that they were racing for each other. They loved each other. They would do anything for each other. And so I feel like when you're part of a team like that, that sparks an extra layer of magic come championship season, and they're sometimes able to get more out of themselves than they would have otherwise if they're running for themselves. So I'm curious about your lack of putting Andrea Napoleon up in the top 10.
She's ranked number 18 in
I love
FloTrack's
the
rankings.
So I love I think there's so much room in this show for us to kind of talk about some nuances, right, and these decisions, and if you think they're awful, I want to hear it. So Angelina Napoleon, we set her out to start the season number 18. She obviously competed at Worlds. She held that 18 spot. We didn't move her down or up after this first set of rankings. You know, so I was a steeplechaser too. Like, you have a faster PR, Krissy, but I was a steeplechaser, so I have a soft spot for steeplechasers. But I think one of the main factors was that she finished 96th at NCAA's last year, and so it was hard to. She was one of those that had a lot of question marks. It was hard to put her too high, but hard to put her too low based on the outdoor season she had. On the same token, we don't always see that steeplechase success translate, right? We see it sometimes. There are certainly plenty of examples of where that success does translate, but we don't always see it translate. I think, to your point, Angelina Napoleon can be one where we do see that success translate really well. I think the decision, the kind of the thinking there when we sat down and talked about this was just a lot of the women ahead of her were just more proven on the cross-country course, and which made it a little bit more difficult to put her ahead of some other women. But you bring up a great point. I mean, we do have, Jane Hendegren, who is at 7. I will say her name, even if you don't want to. We do have Jane Hendegren at number 7, who hasn't run a cross-country race, and on the collegiate side. But Jane, if she runs again, she might not even run this year, right? Like, she might jump out of our rankings. BYU is prolific for redshirting women or men in their first year, right? And so there's still some speculation. She's listed on the BYU roster currently. She's not currently listed on their TFRS roster, so we don't know for certain if she will or will not race this year. But she did run 14:57, right? Like,
I'm not contesting with you. Like, she's a much better runner than I am.
Yeah.
So it's not like, she's
wow,
up there, I objectively, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think she's faster PRs. Any event that I've run, I'm pretty sure she's faster PRs. Yeah, I guess that was it. Like, it's not that she doesn't deserve to be up there, but I guess until she competes at the college level, that's just, like, again, my bias take. Like, I would put people who have run in college. Like, I just think it's a different beast sometimes, But again, like I said, like, BYU just has that team culture where, like, you're just able to get a little more out of yourself because you're not just running for yourself, which kind of makes me scared of her again this year, because I feel like it seemed like she was running solo last year. And so I'm like, oh my God, to have the BYU team around you, like, oh, what's coming next,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be scary.
Yeah, no,
it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be interesting because, on paper, we obviously have her as BYU's number 1 runner, but she could easily just pack run with Jenna Hutchins and Riley Chamberlain, right? So it's going to be really fun to watch if she does open the year. Like, they might redshirt her, and that's, perfectly a good choice. I mean, it could be. I mean, I'm not a coach, right? Like, I don't know if it's a good choice or a bad choice. It could be a good choice to allow her to have a year to develop, right, and get her legs under her, and familiarize herself with the collegiate system. I don't think that would be a bad choice if they decide to do that. If they decide to race her, well, it's because she's ready, right? And I think Coach Diljit will make that decision based on what she sees. And I don't think we should really question that based on Diljit's kind of track record of being just one of the best coaches on the women's side.
Hey, man, I love a good discussion. We have
this is great.
About 2 weeks for these rankings to change. But until then, we have some fun segments to get into. Let's talk about stashies for Nashies. That's right, guys. It's coming back. And we all know, like, cross country is prolific for having, like, the best stashes. I got some for myself. I got some for Bryan. Krissy, John, I'm going to send you yours, and a requirement to be on this show is you have to wear them. So this is mine. It's quite cute, I must say. And Bryan's going to put his on in a second. But, like, I just wanted to show you guys just what we have, like, some really fun pictures. We have some really fun things from the past. There's been people who have, like, they've just been doing their thing, man. I mean, back in the day, we crowned the boldest and best collegiate stashes in cross country. And obviously in 2025, we just have to bring the tradition back. Who's that guy? That's Ryan Fenton. I mean, does it get any better than that? That's a handlebar mustache.
Oh, those are my
ladies. No, these are awesome. These are awesome. Krissy, I'll get you one of those too if you don't like these little Pringle ones that I have.
I will take whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In those first few photos, there was Alex Lohr with Ryan Fenton and Craig Lutz, who used to run for the University of Texas. Speaking of Ryan Fenton, there he is again. Oh, that's a beard, though.
Does that count?
I don't know how that picture got in there, because that's technically a beard. But that's a great stash right there. And that's Division
really
II representing. Love that. And the
Period.
hair, too.
I love it.
Oh, and that's my former teammate, John Gasu. He's going to be excited to know that he's in the rankings show. That was Division II Nationals one year.
Wait, did you run for Edinburgh?
I did run for Edinburgh, yeah.
My dad wrestled for Edinburgh.
No, I think
snap.
I've heard of this before, actually. I don't know if we've talked about it, but somebody told me
no.
the same thing. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, go Burrow.
Why
Yeah,
is
love
that?
it.
Here we go.
I had this discussion with somebody, and now that you bring it up, I don't remember who it was, but I do remember hearing that your dad wrestled for Edinburgh. That's awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I ran at Edinburgh. We were Division II Firehouse back in the day.
Represent.
Look at
Do you like
that
my stash? Yeah, how about that?
Dude, that's
So
a great
this is-
stash.
I like this. I'm definitely gonna grow my own before nationals, though. That's 100% gonna happen because this kind of it's sticky and feels kind of weird.
It kinda eats.
Like a Lorax.
It kinda
Yeah, it
eats.
does. It feels like a Lorax. I feel like I can paint it orange.
So with all that being said, ladies, men, everyone, please stop us, tag us with your best stash, #stashies for Nashies. We'll be looking out for you. And and honestly, what we're going to end up doing is at the end of the season, we are going to vote for the best stash, and you guys will get a prize straight from FloTrack headquarters. And again, don't worry, Krissy and John for the next show, they will have their stashes, and we're all just gonna have like uniform stashes. It's gonna be really cute. Remember, #stashies for Nashies. I will put it right here on the screen for you guys to reference. And with that being said, that's the show. That is the show.
What's the prize?
For the 2025.
John wants to know what the prize is. It's TBD.
I want to know what the prize is.
It's gonna be good though. You're gonna definitely want it. It's gonna be worth
needs
it.
to pony up.
That means
John, just start growing your mustache now, pal, because you're gonna have a hard time beating me. Because mine's coming in.
I think you just
I
waxed
made
it a
the
little
I think I
bit.
just waxed it off a little bit, but it's coming in. It's coming.
I made the mistake of shaving this morning. I forgot we were doing this.
It's all right. Look,
That's my
John, No
bad.
Shave November is coming up. This is your chance.
Yeah.
This is your chance.
But you
Sure, I'll
mentioned
get
initially
ahead of
October too.
Don't worry, but don't worry, I got you. I got you one just like that. I got you one like this. I got flavors. But that'll do it for this edition of FloTrack's College Cross Country Ranking Show presented by HOKA. Make sure you guys tune in every 2 weeks and we'll be right here to discuss the newest and latest rankings. See you guys next time.